am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. तुम्हारा तुम्हारा प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा मैं तुम्हारा मैं तुम्हारा प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा तुम्हारा हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा तुम्हारा मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा तुम्हारा प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा मैं तुम्हारा मैं तुम्हारा प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा तुम्हारा मैं तुम्हारा मैं तुम्हारा प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा मेरे हो जाओ मेरे तुम्हारा तुम्हारा हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो मेरे प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा तुम्हारा प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा मैं तुम्हारा मैं तुम्हारा प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा तुम्हारा प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा मैं तुम्हारा मैं तुम्हारा प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा तुम्हारा हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा तुम्हारा हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा
Make you hear
Done. अब हो गया क्या था
हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा तुम्हारा हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा तुम्हारा हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे हो जाओ मेरे प्रभु मैं तुम्हारा तुम्हारा Ananda.
ever new joy, 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 ever new joy, joy, joy.
Feeling the attunement to God and the Gurus through these uplifting chants, let's carry forward the proceedings of the day. Let us all welcome amongst us Nayaswamis Jyotishji, Nayaswamis Deviji, all the Nayaswamis who have graced us today with their presence from all over India. All dearest Guru Bhais and everybody who's present here today. Invoking the presence of the divine so that they may open our hearts and minds for the wisdom that we are about to receive today. Let us start today's proceedings with lighting a lamp. I'd humbly invite Nayaswamis Jyotishji, Nayaswamis Deviji, Nayaswamis Dhyanaji, Nayaswamis Devarshiji, and Nayaswamis Nitaiji to please walk up and light the lamp to start the proceedings of the day. Lighting the lamp is symbolic of dispelling the darkness. A big, big thank you to all our Nayaswamis for not just lighting this lamp, but for lighting our lives every single day. For those who are new to Ananda, I'd like to briefly introduce Nayaswamis Jyotishji and Nayaswamis Deviji to you. Jyotishji and Deviji are the spiritual directors of Ananda worldwide. We know that Swami Kriyananda was a direct disciple of Paramhans Yogananda. In 2013, when Swami Kriyananda left his body, he named Jyotishji as his spiritual successor. Nayaswamis Jyotishji and Nayaswamis Deviji had met Swami Kriyananda in 1966 and 69 respectively. And since then, they have been willingly serving their Guru's work, taking Ananda to all souls across the world. They are authors of many beautiful books that are simple yet really powerful, some of which are Faith is My Armor, Touch of Light, 30 Days Essentials to Career, and many other very practical yet deeply inspiring books. I'm delighted to hold up this book today, Touch of Inner Power. This is their most recent book, and copies of this are available outside if you'd like to feel more inspiration beyond this talk as well. Not just as authors, we know that Nayaswamis Jyotishji and Nayaswamis Deviji travel across the entire world, blessing and inspiring people, talking about how to spiritualize daily lives, talking about the path of Kriya Yoga. We lovingly call them our spiritual parents because they not only inspire us through their weekly blogs, their talks, their inspirations, their books, but another special thing is their visits to these centers. And each time they visit this center or any other center in the world, they fill it up with love and joy. And why not? Because they, when they come, they do not come alone. They bring with them an aura that has served with Swamiji for so many decades. Jyotishji and Deviji, on behalf of all of us, a deep, heartfelt gratitude for blessing us and guiding us every moment of our lives. May I now invite Amit and Shubhra to kindly present bouquets to them as our token of gratitude. Swami Kriyananda had said that God has many beautiful things to do on earth, and he needs willing instruments, like many of us in the room as well, to carry on that work on earth. And who better exemplifies the willingness and the attunement as true channels of the Gurus than yourselves, Jyotishji and Deviji? On behalf of all of us, I would now like to invite Nitendra and Jayanti to present a small token of our love and appreciation for your guidance, the light that you have been giving us in this life. Great. This is a conch that Jyotishji is holding up. And many of us perhaps know that in Hindu mythology, the sound coming from the conch is the sound of the sacred Om. What Devi ji is holding out is a book that is a collection of the paintings of Nayaswamis Jyotishji himself, the paintings till date. Along with these very inspirational spiritual paintings, there are also some quotes for even more inspiration. This reminds me of a story, Jyotishji, where a little girl had asked her parents, why should we light a diya in front of God, who is the creator of the sun and the stars? So, Jyotishji, this little present is our bhav to express gratitude for your grace, for your generosity of giving us all your paintings. Additional information for those who would like to order these paintings. Our volunteers are outside to help you. And we also have some lovely cloth bags printed out with these really beautiful paintings. So if you'd like to take them, you can contact the book and boutique set up so beautifully outside. Next, let's welcome on stage our constant guiding light at Ananda, Gurgaon. She has been the inspiration for so many of us and really continues to teach us how to be a true channel of our gurus. Let's welcome Nayaswami Dhyana on stage and requesting Jayanti to also kindly present a token of our gratitude. This is a really small token, Dhyanaji, but it is our bhav that we are carrying forward. This is the same book. And Dhyana ji has always told us that she was so fond of all these paintings, and perhaps that was the seed of where the inspiration of making such a book came. Thank you, Dhyana ji. Thank you. Thank you so much, Meeta, Ankita, and Kanuj as well. People who come to Ananda have often said that it is the music here that has really moved them. And in many cases, they have said that it has changed their lives. I'd now like to invite the choir, all gracefully lined up here on the stage, please.
There's dawn in the heavens, a smile on the mountains, and melody sings everywhere. The clouds are laughing to welcome the morning. Your soul is as free as the air. The clouds are laughing to welcome the morning. Your soul is as free as the air.
A big thank you to the choir for really filling this entire room with the joy. Thank you very much. On this really joyous note, let us now invite Nayaswamis Jyotishji and Nayaswamis Deviji for the talk that we have all eagerly been waiting for. How to be victorious in the battle of life.
Well, first of all, to say thank you for those beautiful gifts, and especially that book is entirely inadequate. I'm not just thankful, I'm overwhelmed by, yes, the gift itself, but more the expression of friendship and kindness and generosity. This center is actually very precious to us. Swamiji was here. We were here at the very beginning of it. We never imagined in those early days that we would be seeing this hall absolutely filled with eager devotees, people yearning for truth, yearning for higher consciousness. It's very, very gratifying to see how these teachings are beginning to spread. And honestly, this is just the very, very beginning. These teachings, these great masters came on behalf of God to help uplift the consciousness of the world. So this morning, we're going to talk on the theme of how to be victorious in the battle of life. I would like to invite you to join in a little experiment today. So let's take just a moment. I want you to close your eyes. Imagine that you're close to the end of your life, perhaps in the last week of your life, and you're reviewing it. And I want you to imagine as clearly as possible what you would think of as a victorious life. Look at all the different aspects of your daily life, of what you're doing, and ask yourself, what would a victorious life at the end of my time on earth look like? Okay, I don't want to take too long for this experiment, but I would like you to try to hold on to the image that you had of the end of that, of the end of life, so that I'm going to return to it. But, you know, in most arenas where there is something that's victorious, there's some way of keeping score. How do you know whether you're victorious or not? You know, if you have a cricket match, you know at the end of that cricket match who won because somebody is keeping score and you see what the score is. So how do we keep score in life? How do we know at the end of our time whether we've been victorious or not? Well, I don't know what the record for the cricket score is. Probably some of you will actually know that, but say a few hundred points would be a record cricket score. What is the score for the end of life? What is the score for victory in our incarnation? Is it a few hundred? Is it more than a few hundred? Well, there is a number to it. That number is infinity. That's the score that we're trying to achieve by the end of life. One of the great, great gifts of India to the world is the great teachings of the Vedas, the great teachings of the sages of ancient India and of modern India also. But one of the concepts is Sanatana Dharma, the eternal righteousness. It's beyond religion, it's beyond philosophy, it's beyond any of those concepts. It's eternal. That means that before this earth came into being, there was Sanatana Dharma. When this earth is a tiny cinder flying into the sun, Sanatana Dharma will still be there. Swami Kriyananda said that the essence of Sanatana Dharma is this. It's actually quite simple, that there's one consciousness, that consciousness of the Creator, consciousness of God. And out of that consciousness is produced everything that comes into the material plane. So one consciousness is produced. Each of us are an aspect of that consciousness. Each of us are a little spark of that infinite light. And we go out from that unified consciousness, and we are destined ultimately to return to that consciousness. So that's ultimately the purpose of life. So when you're playing a game of a match of cricket, you know what the destiny is, what the goal is, what you're trying to achieve. What are we trying to achieve in life? We're trying to achieve the return to that consciousness that we came from, and that we're all, each and every one of us, destined to repeat again, coming back to that. So now let's look at the aspects of life, because if consciousness is our reality, then now we have something by which we can judge whether we're victorious or not. So the real goal of all of our functioning is to expand our consciousness. When God creates the world, he creates individual souls, the Atma. And those individual souls go out as sparks from him and begin to return. That return journey is based upon an expansion of consciousness. Now, the great scriptures of India, the great scriptures that we're all aware of, the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, they all give us an understanding of what expanded consciousness is. And they all begin with essentially the concept that we are not this physical body. We are not our attitudes, our habits, our limited consciousness. We are the soul that has come out from God and is making a journey back to God. But there are certain things that happen, certain ways that we can behave, that we can look at life, that we can make decisions that will allow us to expand our consciousness. Swami Kriyananda said to us that for those of us who are seriously on the spiritual path, that the goal of our life should be to achieve a state of consciousness of complete freedom from ego, to become, in Sanskrit, it's called the Jivan Mukta, so that we're free from the concept of limitation of this ego. Another way of stating that is that as we progress and expand consciousness, there is a stage that we will reach, which is called Christ consciousness in the West, Krishna consciousness here. And so that state is to understand that we're not the body, not the personality, that the soul, in our true nature, we are part and parcel of everything that exists. And we actually will, and at some point, experience that state of samadhi, state of cosmic consciousness, where it's not mental, it's not affirmation, it's the actual consciousness that comes over us, the realization that we are everything that exists. And so that's our goal in this life or in some life. We are destined to achieve that. But if that's the goal, if that's the purpose of life, that gives us a way of keeping score. So the keeping of score is how close are we moving toward that? How are we coming to that? So the various functionings of life, let's take the various, essentially the primordial urges of when we come into life, the primordial urges of not only humans, but of all animals. They're really expressions of that initial state of consciousness. It's described by Adi Shankara as Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, and bliss. Master added the little wrinkle. He said that it should be thought of not just as bliss, but ever new, ever expanding bliss, because it never ends. So the state of consciousness that we're after, infinity goes on forever. It isn't ever confined. But that's what we're trying to get back to. And as we come into this life, we have reflections of that. So existence, sat. In this life, one of the basic urges is to continue our existence. Every animal, every human has the desire to keep himself alive. And so the first thing that we have to, one might say that each of these primordial elements presents a challenge and a way of shrinking and a way of expanding. And so each of these primordial urges will challenge us, but the real question of how to keep score, how to know if we're victorious or not, is not whether we achieve victory in that arena, but rather what does it do to your consciousness? So you take the first chakra, which has to do with security, the desire to be able to stay alive. And that first chakra is going to challenge each of us during our lifetime. So if we think, how can we judge whether we're victorious in terms of security? There are two ways of thinking that we're going to be able to achieve security. One is by somehow accumulating enough props around us, material possessions, so that we can feel that we're going to be secure. In America, they have bumper stickers, which on the back of the cars, you have a little sticker that you put on there, and often they're humorous. So I saw one of them that said, "He who dies with the most toys wins." So that's one way of looking at that. We're trying to accumulate the most toys. We're trying to accumulate the most money. If you look at a materialist, they will judge whether they're successful, whether they're victorious in life by how much they've accumulated. Are they a millionaire? Who cares about millionaires? You have to be at least a billionaire. And now there are a few people working their way toward becoming the world's first trillionaire. So is that going to be enough financial wealth for them to feel secure? I don't think so. Because financial wealth will never make you feel secure. Having more possessions will not give you the sense of security that you're after, because possessions, if you accumulate them, you can always lose them somehow. And so you're never secure. But this, my friends, is one of the absolutely fundamental themes that is repeated again and again in the scriptures. So the question is, does material wealth give you security, or does something else, in this case, the opposite of material wealth, or thinking that your security comes from outside of yourself, is to have faith in your own divinity or in the divinity of God, to have faith in that to provide you with what you need when you need it. Master had a beautiful affirmation. He said, I go forth in perfect faith in the power of omnipresent good to give me what I need at the time I need it. That perfect faith, now that is what gives you security. But this is played out again and again. All of you, I'm sure, are aware of the beautiful story as part of the Mahabharata, where it's been building toward a war. And the two sides, the Kauravas and the Pandavas, they know now that war is inevitable. And so they're trying to get allies. And both Arjuna and Duryodhana go to ask Krishna for help. Duryodhana, Yogananda in his interpretations calls him King Material Desire. And Arjuna, Swami in that interpretation calls Arjuna Devotee every man. So we've got the materialist against the devotee, and they have come to Krishna. And Krishna is feigning that he's asleep. Well, Duryodhana arrives a little ahead of Krishna, and he proudly sits at the head of the bed. Arjuna arrives later, and he kneels humbly at the foot of the bed. And then Krishna, all of this is a Leela of God, but it's for our instruction. So Krishna awakens, and he looks and he sees Arjuna because he's at the foot, and he sees Duryodhana, and he says, oh, you're here. Why are you here? Duryodhana says, well, we've come to ask you for your help. We want you to fight on our side. We want you and all your armies. And Krishna said, well, this is a difficult decision for me, because I have to, I feel a loyalty to both of you. This actually is representing the ego and the soul, but God has a responsibility to both of those. And he says, Arjuna, since I'll split, I will give one of you all of my material wealth. I'll give you the jewels and the gold and the silver and the warriors and the armament and the spears and the war elephants, all of that. And the other, I will give only my help, but I won't fight on your side. I'll simply be your charioteer. And since I saw you, Arjuna, first when I opened my eyes, I give you the first choice. Well, this drives Duryodhana crazy, because now we have to put ourselves in that position. This is not 2,000 years ago and somewhere far away. This is us being asked now, how are you going to have security? How are you going to be victorious? And are we going to be victorious by accumulating material wealth? Or are we going to be victorious by having faith that if God is on our side, then victory is assured? Well, the materialist is driven crazy by the devotee having first choice. And so, but Arjuna says, I choose you, my Lord. And of course, Duryodhana is thrilled because the materialist thinks that, of course, victory lies in having material wealth. Well, we all know the outcome of that battle, but is that something that is true 2,000 years ago and no longer valid in this life? Throughout the autobiography of a yogi, one of the primary themes that is repeated again and again and again by Master, by Yoganandaji, in that great scripture is just this dilemma. Do I achieve, can spiritual power, can my faith actually have an effect in this material world? Can I be victorious? God doesn't want us to be poor. God doesn't want us to be insecure. He wants us to have those things. But the question is not whether we should have them or not. The question is whether we should be attached to them or not. Because remember, everything, all of these tests are not about the test itself. They're about what becomes of our consciousness by the choices we make. If we make certain choices, our consciousness expands. If we make other choices, our consciousness contracts. And so it's about the choices that we make. We have a very good friend who's a wonderful storyteller. And he says that the Mahabharata, we think of the Pandavas and the Kauravas, we think of that as a battle between the good guys and the bad guys. He said that isn't true. It's really about, thank you, all of those characters, everyone in the Mahabharata are complex characters. They have good sides, they have bad sides, they have good qualities, they have flaws. We're all complex. It isn't about whether we're good or bad. It's about complex people making the right choice. And so what is the choice that we make? We're going to be faced, you and I, with this choice of how do we maintain a sense of being secure, of being able to live life well, of not dying prematurely, all of that, all of these primordial urges that we have to deal with. And if we think that oh, great, thank you. If we think that this whole question is about whether we accumulate or not, has nothing really to do with it. We can be rich and insecure. We can be poor and be secure. We can be rich and not be attached. We can be poor and be attached. It's all about consciousness. And so when we judge whether we're victorious or not, there's one question that we should ask. When we're faced with a choice about whether to do something, whether to acquire something, whether to work for something, there's one question that we should ask. Not whether I want it. Obviously, we have these urges, but the question we should be asking is, what will my choice do to my consciousness? Will it expand it or will it contract it? Now, if you can remember to ask that question when you're faced with some question in your life, what should I do? How should I act? What should I try to achieve? Should I take a new promotion at work? Should I buy a house? Should I acquire some land? Should I invest? All of those things, we get caught up in the drama of life and we forget to ask the right questions. If we don't ask the right question, we're destined to get the wrong answer. So the question we should be asking for each of those choices that come up in life is, what will one course of action do to my consciousness? And what will the other course of action do to my consciousness? Do you take a promotion at work? What is that going to do to your consciousness? For some people, a promotion is good. Most, of course, materialists, they never even stop to ask this question. They simply say, well, of course, a promotion is good. I get status, I get money, I get possessions. Of course it's good. He who dies with the most toys wins. But for the devotee, we have to ask the question, what will this promotion do to my consciousness? Now, for each individual, the answer may be different. For some, a promotion may be exactly what you need for your growth, for your expansion. It's going to allow you to do things that are helpful to others. We heard a beautiful story of a man. This happened just a few years ago with one of our acharyas, Nayaswamis Jyotishji. He was teaching during the pandemic time, and a man came to him, wanted to get Kriya. And so he led the man through. This man was very wealthy, and he had a high position. He had worked in order to support a big extended family. And so he had a high position, and during COVID time, he ended up, because the company could no longer keep people employed, he ended up being retired, but now having still the income coming in. So he wanted to get Kriya. He went through the training for Kriya, and then he discovered that he had a rare form of cancer that was incurable. And so here he was at the end of life, and he wasn't concerned so much for himself, but he was concerned for his family, those that he had supported. And so he had to go in for a special treatment, a radiation where they were doing some imaging and testing. And he had to be alone in a room for 6 hours while the drug permeated the cells of his body, the radioactive drug. During that time, he was very worried. He was very concerned. As I say, not for himself, but for if he were not to be able to be cured, what would happen to his family? And so he was there, worried, not knowing what to do. And he saw coming through the door Sri Yukteswar. And Sri Yukteswar came, and as he approached him, he first was full size, life size. As he approached him, he grew smaller and smaller until he came to his spiritual eye and penetrated through his spiritual eye. And as he did that, he said, "Don't worry, everything is going to be all right." Now, how does the materialist take that? I'm going to be cured. Wonderful, great. Don't worry, everything is going to be all right. This man was not cured. He went on to, a few months later, die of this disease. but his family knew that they were protected from this protection of the divine because the man had opened himself. So the point of this story here is that material wealth isn't bad, but it needs to be used if we're going to expand our consciousness. Material wealth needs to be used in the service of others. Otherwise, if we think of ourselves, that our consciousness is going to contract. If we think of others, our consciousness is going to expand. The same with another fundamental aspect of life, which is how much control do we have? How much power do we have? In the animal kingdom, this is called eminent domain. And animals have a domain that they try, even a little slug will have a territory that it will try to defend. Birds fight each other to keep their territory. All animals, they try to protect, they try to have a territory, so that sense of being able to extend your power over the environment around you is a very deep and primordial drive in all of life. Well, how do we relate to that? Because we're all going to get faced with that. We're going to go to work, and there are going to be power struggles at work. Davy and I, we often get questions. Almost every talk, if we have a question and answer period afterwards, almost every time somebody says, what do I do about the people at work who treat me badly, who try to take credit for my work, or who are lazy and blame me? How do I handle that? Basically, they're asking often, is there some secret technique that you have that I have going to be able to have power over those people and get them to behave the way I want them to? And we have to answer basically, no, you have to look at your own consciousness. You have to look at your own feelings. You have to see how, but here's the real question. How does that relationship to them, what does it do to your consciousness? Because in some cases, you do indeed need to expand your consciousness and extend, I don't know, I don't want to say power, but confront people who are trying to push against you. For some of you, that will be the action that expands you. For others, it will not be the action that expands you, but essentially, ultimately, the answer to that is you have to understand that it isn't outer power, outer control that is going to satisfy you. It's the power over your own self. And so Arjuna, as a quality in the Mahabharata, Master said, Arjuna represents fiery self-control. Here's the greatest warrior of his day, who is able by fighting to dominate others. But what is his battle? Fiery self-control. And so all of these things, the point here is that how do we know whether we're victorious at the end of life? We have to ask the question, not how many toys did we have? How successful were we at work? How outwardly, the answer is nothing outward. The question that we have to ask is, what did we do with our consciousness through all of those tests, through all of those challenges? And so now I want you to return briefly and reimagine. I hope that you held on to what your thought was of, at the end of life, what a victorious life looked like. I want you to return briefly and see whether your way of judging, your way of scoring that question has changed. So now return, you're in your last week of life. I want you to ask, what looks like a victorious life? Having heard that it's not about outward things, it's about the change of consciousness. Okay. And I think you know that ultimately what we're trying to achieve is on a scale of 1 to 10, we're trying to achieve not 10, but infinity. And that is a victorious life. God bless you.
So, good morning, friends. So, I too will share a few thoughts on this topic, how to be victorious in the battle of life. And so first, I think we should ask the question, why is life a battle? Because sometimes you just think, God, why did you make it so difficult? I know when I was first, Jyotish and I have been following the teachings of Yogananda for many decades. And in the first few years when I was on the path, I was going through a period of discouragement. And fortunately, I lived in the Ananda spiritual community ashram in America. And there was an older gentleman there who had been on the path for many, many years. And he was my friend and confidant. And I went to him one day in a mood of discouragement. And I said, why does God make it so hard? And he looked at me with the wisdom born of experience. And he said, there must be some value in the struggle itself. And so life is indeed a battle. But what is the value then of the struggle? As Jyotish was explaining so lucidly, we are each sparks of God. And for whatever reason, in his infinite wisdom, God decides from an infinite state of consciousness to send each of us out as little sparks of himself into the world. And the whole drama of life, the whole drama of creation is to find our way home, to find our way back to God. And people say, well, I know what the battle of life is. It's, as we were saying, it's the difficult people at work. It's my children who just don't listen to me. It's my mother-in-law who's so unsupportive. These are not the battle of life. These are reflections of your journey home. Because when we have that initial going forth from unity with God, as Jyotish has been saying, we begin to make choices. And some of the choices are wise, and some of the choices are not wise. And the choices that are not wise lead us to bondage. That's the law of karma, the teachings of reincarnation. So from lifetime after lifetime, we are faced with choices. And to the extent, as Jyotish was saying, we make choices that expand our consciousness, we find freedom inside. To the extent we make choices that contract our consciousness, we face the battle of life, because we can't return to God as long as we are trapped in the karma of materialistic thinking. And I read a wonderful quote from Master in which he said, "In the vault of the mind lie the chains of bondage, but also the keys to freedom." So we need to understand that the battle of life is to break the bonds that keep us separate from our experiencing our unity with God. And we do this for each one of us, it's different. Once, many years ago, we were having a Kriya initiation with our lifelong teacher, Swami Kriyananda, who passed away in 2013. And we each went up to him for a blessing as part of this ceremony. And afterwards, there were a few of us gathered around, and he said something so interesting. And I really thought about it. To this day, I think about it. He said, "As each one of you came up for a blessing, I felt your unique journey back to God." And I was thrilled at hearing that, one, that I had a journey back to God, but then I had to discover it myself. We can share the most profound teachings, but you have to make the choices in life. You have to look inside and say, what's holding me back because of past choices, past bad karma, and even past good karma? Once Swami was asked the question, Swamiji was asked the question, what's good karma and bad karma? And his answer was, again, full of wisdom. He said, good karma is anything that brings you closer to God. And so this man who we talked about, who died of cancer, that was good karma. We need to understand it's not always what it looks like on the surface, but it's that which brings us closer to God. You can win a big prize and have great riches. Is that good karma or bad karma? Some people would say, of course, that's good karma. It depends how you respond. If you respond, oh, now I can enjoy myself in the world, that's bad karma. But if you think, how can I use this to grow closer to God and help others, as some people do, that's good karma. And so we're on this journey. The battle of life is simply about breaking the bonds that hold us. And then how are we victorious in this battle? Jyotish spoke about it in a certain way. I'll take another approach. You know, in Yogananda, he had two great books that he wrote. One, Autobiography of a Yogi. And let me just ask you, how many of you have read Autobiography of a Yogi? Wow, almost everyone in the room. And then his second great book is The Interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita, a unique interpretation. And Swamiji who was with him as he was dictating that book, he has written a book called The Essence of the Bhagavad Gita Explained. And it's a marvelous book if you haven't read it. But what Master presents, his interpretation of the Gita, is that it isn't the bad side of the family against the good side of the family, but both are aspects of ourself, our higher and lower nature. And it's very interesting, isn't it, that for those of you, and I imagine it's most of you who have read Mahabharata, there are only 5 Pandavas, the 5 Pandava brothers. But the Kauravas, their numbers are in the hundreds. And what does that mean? Is the battle lost before it's even fought? The 5 Pandavas represent the awakened energy of the chakras that we awaken during meditation and the practice of Kriya Yoga and raising the energy up the spine. So Nakula, Sahadeva, Arjuna, Bhima, Yudhishthira, and then of course the cousin Krishna. But the Kauravas are many. And what do they represent? The many myriad expressions of bondage of karma that we each have, habits and greed and delusion and material desires. Those are but they're within us. It's not something out there. And so our own higher nature has to fight this battle. And we were recently in doing a sharing like this, a satsang, a weekend program in Germany, and for people from Northern Europe. But there was one man there, an Indian man who was living in Berlin for his work. And we were having lunch together. And it's what makes India so, as the guru of the world. We were having lunch, this man, Anup and I, and he started telling the story that Jyotish just recounted of Arjuna's choice, choosing God. And as he told me this story, which I knew, but I listened to him, he couldn't finish the story. He was crying so much at the thought of choosing God to solve your problems. And once we do that, if we, through the awakened energy, all these, the Kauravas, king material desire and greed and habit and anger, all the qualities they represent, they're uplifted, they dissolve. And that's what makes us victorious. It isn't anything outward, but you look back on your life and you realize all those things I used to worry about, all those things that kept me anxious or anger or reactive, they're not there anymore. I remember once I had, after about 10 years of living in the Ananda ashram, we were with Swami Kriyananda, and he was talking about how different people had changed and developed over the years. And I didn't usually say things like this, but it just kind of came blurting out of me. And I said, I don't see that I've changed that much at all. And he gave me a verbal slap in the face. And he said, how can you say that? You're not at all the same person as when you came. And it's hard to see those changes in yourself, because it's like, it uses that beautiful image in the Gita of cleaning the sattvic tendency is just like cleaning rust off a mirror, just a little wipe and it's gone. And so for all of us in this battle of life against our own past karma, against the decisions we made, who knows how many lifetimes ago, but here we're faced with them. But luckily, we have a very good GPS unit. And you know what that stands for? Guru's Path to Self-Realization. We have that. The Guru has given us the way to be victorious. And what are some attitudes that he encourages us to develop? Yogananda was a warrior in many lifetimes. He has told us. Yogananda said in the Bhagavad Gita, he himself was Arjuna. He himself was William the Conqueror, who brought came to England, conquered the Normans, created the most stable, continuous government in the world. Yogananda said he was that. So he was a man of strength and courage. And in fact, there's a historical story when William the Conqueror, our guru in that life, 1066, when his armada, his naval fleet was coming to land on the coast of England. And when they disembarked from the big boats and they were on little transport ships, but Yogananda got off first. And then as he was getting on to begin the conquest, just symbolic, really. Conquest of what? Conquest over materialism. He tripped and fell, and all his troops, and he landed face down on the shore. All of his troops, a big sigh went up. This is an inauspicious omen. But Yogananda, being a man of courage and determination, he grabbed the sand in both hands and he said, I so am determined to conquer this land that I reach down and I grab its soil. And a great cheer went up and everyone rejoiced. And yeah, we can clap. Everyone and his army went on to conquer that land. But that's what we need to do when we fall flat on our face, when we make the right choice, wrong choices, when we're faced with things we don't know how, we should find that courage and determination. And our master has it, and he gives it to us. You know, in the course of building Ananda, you may think, oh, how nice. They live in this very peaceful ashram out in the country. My friends, we faced challenge after challenge on every front you can imagine. But we grabbed hold of Master's hand and we said, we will not go down. We are here to serve our Guru and make his name known in the world. And that's what has happened. So courage and stamina, but then also joy. Fight the battle, not grimly, but with a heart full of the joy, full of knowing that God is with you. Swami has a beautiful song. It's a children's song. Maybe someday our wonderful choir will sing it. Sing in the meadows and everywhere. And then it ends, sing and the battle is won. So when you're faced with karmic challenges, courage, yes, but joy. Joy knowing you can be victorious. Don't lose that. When the discouragement comes, I remember once in the early 19 or the late 1980s, Swamiji sent Jyotish and Diana and me and a few others to our starting work in Italy. And we were living there trying to, now we have a beautiful community. Shama and her boys were just there. But when we arrived, there was nothing. There was nothing. We didn't speak Italian. We had very little money. We knew no one. It was pushing us into the very deep end of the pool. But I started noticing as the time went on and it was a very cold winter, I started getting a little discouraged again. And then every day it kind of got worse and worse but I always kind of straightened up and I thought, okay, I'm in a low state of mind, but I've known worse. I've gotten through worse. And then finally I woke up one morning and I thought, this is new territory. I've never been this depressed in my life. And I thought, I have got to fight back because it's feeling stronger than I am. And someone had sent us a beautiful card that said, a friend from Italy, it said Gioia, that's joy in Italian. And I just cut out that beautiful sparkly card and I put it on the window and I said, that's what I'm living for. And little by little, I fought that battle. And by the end of several weeks, and I'm not saying it to draw that I'm attention to myself, I'm not doing that. But at the end of those several weeks, I felt a joy unlike anything I had ever known in my life. And so follow through, fight with joy, because if you fight with joy, if joy is your sword, that quality permeates your whole consciousness. So courage and joy, determination. And then finally, we come to the aspect of when we try to draw God into our life, remember that to be calm in Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava, the quality master gave him was calmness in psychological battle, calmness in the battle of life. And in the battle of the Mahabharata, which I think for all of us, we've read it many times. I hope you have too. Really the most thrilling piece of spiritual literature the world has ever known. And of course, the Gita is the gemstone of the whole thing. But a friend of ours who is a Vedic scholar and a Kriyaban, disciple of our path, pointed out that the forces of the Kauravas, the materialistic forces, they have different generals throughout the 18-day battle. Because, and why? Because the forces of materialism, okay, if I can't get him this way, I'll get him this way. If he's not attached to money, maybe he's attached to fame. And so they're always trying to grab us, different generals. But the Pandavas had one general throughout the whole battle, Drishtadyamna. And he is the quality of inner light, not one of the brothers, but one of the relatives, inner light. That was the one quality throughout the 18-day battle. That was the general that led them all to victory. So we need to, and how do we have inner light? The practice of meditation, the practice of Kriya Yoga, which awakens the light within us until you see that light shining before you and you look at all the battle of life and you know that your general will help you to conquer it all. And so, my friends, the battle to be victorious in the battle of life is to fight with the tools we've been given, but to know, as our master said, karma is that which we have done, but that which we have done, we can also undo. And that's the battle of life, to introspect and to see what is, if someone is being rude and hurtful in your work or in the family, what is the way I need to respond? What is your choice? Make the right choices, and step by step, we unlock the doors to freedom. And what does it mean to be victorious in life? To find your freedom within your soul, which enables you to return home to our kingdom with God. So thank you. One's good. So now I think Pranita will read some questions. And we're
First of all, let us join in a huge round of applause for the profound for the profound, deep, yet very, very practical aspects that both of you have taught us today. Surely in the wild Indian traffic outside, this room will be smiling through it, looking at the GPS. Such beautiful thoughts there on how making the right choices expands our consciousness. What is good karma? We all read so many books about those. And Deviji, you explained it in one line. Does that take you closer to God? If it does, it is good karma. And most importantly, the encouragement that we get from you of so-called fighting this battle of life with a smile on our faces. The joy that we feel through this GPS and through you as their true channels. When we had announced this topic, some of our Guru Bhais had sent in some questions, most of which I feel are already answered. But nevertheless, I will go through some, and maybe because we are all hungry to hear more and more from your wisdom. Okay, I'll go with the first one, which says, while fighting this battle of life, how should we push through our emotions, desires, and physical and emotional pain?
Well, this obviously is one of the major issues that we all face. But once again, coming back to the theme, we can't suppress our emotions. We can't suppress pain. That doesn't avail us. But if we just express our emotions, express pain, dwell in pain, Master talked about a woman who came and she talked about how she was suffering from this terrible trauma of a operation that she had had, and it was just so difficult for her. And Master said, when did this operation take place? 20 years ago. So she was holding on to all of that pain. What does that avail? So if the battle is to get freedom and expansion of consciousness, if that's the goal of all of these tests, then when emotional difficulties come, we can have positive emotions and we can have a choice. That's one of the things that meditation and Kriya Yoga do, is that they help us control our reactive processes and therefore have a choice. So everything that happens to you, you can choose whether I'm going to, not whether I need to go through this, you have to go through your test, but am I going to go through it being happy and joyful and calm and even-minded, or am I going to be in an emotional wreck by it? So you have that choice, but the more you get centered in yourself, the stronger your ability to make that choice becomes.
The master also said, and this is very basic to teachings of the Vedas, that everything that happens, all circumstances are neutral. It's how we react to them that makes them positive or negative. So the same thing can happen to two people. In fact, there's a little joke about these these two shoe salesmen who go to a third world country, to Africa, to try to create a new market there. And they get off the two different rival companies. And so they get off the plane and they go into the town and they see nobody's wearing shoes. And so one of them immediately calls his boss and said, send return ticket, no market here. And the other one texts his boss and says, send a plane load of shoes, unlimited sales. And so it's how we look at it. And it's not that suffering isn't real. We all suffer. We lose loved ones. We have physical problems. But if we can always keep, what is your goal in life? Life is about change. Life is about loss. But if we can accept that and not wallow in self-pity and expect other people to change it, but just say, what can I do about it? Then suffering and pain, it actually, you will find if you begin practicing, it begins to diminish. And finally, you get to the point, Master gave a wonderful interpretation of Christ's teachings of the Bible in a way that most Westerners have no idea. And there's a phrase that Christ said, if someone slaps you, turn the other cheek. Well, most Westerners think that means, okay, hit me again. But Master, the warrior, said, no, if you have bad karma coming, say, bring it on. That's how Master interpreted that statement, and I think rightfully. And so don't be afraid of suffering. Don't be afraid of bad karma. I would say 90% of suffering is anticipation of what never happens anyway. So be a warrior for God.
Excellent. Thank you. And of course, as you say, Jyotishji, remembering that experiment of what is it that matters in that last week that we can all imagine. So those are really beautiful ones. I'll move on to the next question. Master spoke of the need for introspection and self-analysis if we would achieve victory in life. Why is that important?
introspection and self-analysis are the way that we see what the score is as we move along through day after day. So Swami Kriyananda said that every night we should stop and look at it from Master's teachings, stop and look at what happened during the day and ask yourself, did I win or did I lose at that particular test that came to me? But here I'll add a wrinkle to it. Ask yourself, did the way that I responded to that issue, did that expand my consciousness or contract it? Because if it expanded your consciousness, that gives you the understanding of how you should proceed. If it contracted, it shows you how you're going to get yourself into trouble if you continue that way. I like to tell jokes, but there's a funny story of from an old radio show where there's this wise mentor and the young boy comes to him, the young man comes to him, and he says, how do you get such good judgment? Because he's always giving good counsel. And this wise sage says, well, good judgment, my son, is born of experience. And the young man says, well, how do you get experience? Bad judgment. And so look at what happened during the day. And did you use good judgment or bad judgment in that? Did you expand your consciousness or contract it?
Excellent. Thank you. And of course, at the end of the day, if there are so many bad judgments, we have also been inspired to take that joyfully and try the next day as well. So great. And I'll move on to the next question. I know, Deviji, you mentioned that mothers-in-law or children and all others are just a reflection of the path, but we still have a question on there. One of our Guru Bhais asks, how should we raise our kids to prepare them for a victorious life in a future which is getting more and more unpredictable?
Very good question. And I'm sure everyone with children or grandchildren ponders that question. I think first and foremost, the most important thing is the example of your own life. If they see you serving others, being calm and non-reactive in the middle of challenges, if they see you with a devotional life to God, these are, I've seen this we have a grown son and grandchildren, and I've seen many, many people who their children are molded by the example of their parents' life. And when the children get afraid or challenged by things in the world, try to give them the perspective that there is a greater reality, that this moment in time, it will pass. And there's God's light is always the ultimate reality. But if you're not living it, it's just words. But if you're living it, your children will absorb it. And I have seen so many children of devotees just live the teachings from the inside out because of what their parents have given them. Sometimes they may not seem like it. I'll just tell very briefly. We told this story before, but once when our son was little, he came home from school and some of the other children had teased him and he was crying, and Jyotish, always centered and wise, he just said, now you have to always, no matter how people treat you, you have to be calm. You have to be nice to them. You don't need to get angry with them and react that way. And our son thought about it for a while and he said, I don't want to be that kind of person, Daddy. But in fairness, he grew up to be that kind of person.
Great. Thank you. We perhaps will take just one last question. And you have already alluded to it that in most of your talks, this features. So here it is once again. How should we balance between the demands of a competitive work culture, demanding family members, and my own spiritual life?
So how do we balance all of these demands on us? Obviously, we have a limited amount of time, we have a limited amount of energy, and we can never get to accomplish everything that's asked of us. It's very important to prioritize things in your life. If your goal is freedom of consciousness, if your goal is expansion of consciousness, then you have at least a yardstick by which you can choose, should I do this or should I do that? Which is going to help not only me, but those around me expand their consciousness, and which isn't. And so use that as the yardstick. What will my choices give me? How will I be able to expand my consciousness? And then I'll tell you a secret. The more willing you are to serve as a channel for God, the more energy you will have and the more you'll be able to accomplish. So limited consciousness, limited awareness, and limited self-offering, willingness creates a constriction of energy. Master said, the greater the willingness, the greater the flow of energy. Make that willingness the willingness to serve God, to expand consciousness, and energy will flow.
Now, I'll just add very briefly and then we'll conclude. The spiritual path is one that at first you make, if you've chosen to follow that way, it's like a child learning to walk. At first your steps, they're unsure and slow and small, but the more you do it, the more you get confidence that in your own ability to be committed and in the grace of God and Guru. So maybe in conclusion to our talk, or sharing this morning, just take those steps. And even if you falter, pick yourself up and keep going. The time will come where you're flying. You just take like a little, an airplane, slow, so slow, and then it just lifts off. And then you realize, Master, everything you said is true. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you once again, Jyotishji and Deviji, for those very inspiring and uplifting words. On behalf of all of us, a huge thank you to all the Nayaswamis who are here with us today, all the monks who have gracefully helped us organize this event, all dear Guru Bhais, and everyone who has come here today. I'm sure we are all going to make this promise to ourselves to take that next step, as Deviji just concluded. And even if we falter, we get up and try again. So thank you once again to everybody who's here. I'd like to conclude with a few quick announcements. For those who are new on this path and want to know more about Ananda, our volunteers would be outside to help and answer your queries. If you have felt inspired by this talk, by meeting our Guru Bhais at Ananda, as we lovingly call each other, we are starting a new level 1 course called How to Meditate, the Path of Kriya Yoga, in both English and Hindi on the 29th of September. 2026 is going to be another very important year, like most are, as we celebrate Swami Kriyananda's 100th year. And we have many special programs lined up, including a pilgrimage. Shankaraji will be kind enough to provide more information for those of you who would like to know about it. some faces here, and we always laugh about it, but no talk is complete without this announcement. Lunch is outside. Okay. Last, but certainly not the least, a big thank you to all the Guru Bhais, all the volunteers who have made this possible. Please, please remain seated till the time Jyotishji and Deviji are escorted out of the hall. Please remain seated. I'd request Jayanti and Nitendra to kindly escort Deviji and Jyotishji. Jai Guru.